Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth or something rendition of the podcast tentatively known as Padlock, where we're going to do a roundtable of the last 4 rounds, the entire game. We're going to do a roundtable of the entire game. No, we're actually specifically going to be going over rounds 6, 7, 8, 9, because we have not talked since the eviction of Anwar, if you can believe it or not. So we have to talk about our most recent murderees of the Chateau de Lac, which were Jessica and Johnny and Gigi and Lana in that order. And we're going to try to go in order because I know all of you after the fact in this game are probably going to be very confused having to click back and forth. But I already know I'm probably going to make timestamps for this one. This is going to be one of those. It's going to have timestamps to it. So if you want to click around after the fact, feel free to do so. But we have a lot to talk about, specifically with the first evictee that we can discuss, the first round that we can really talk about, which was the Jessica eviction, the backdooring of Jessica, because we had so much leading up to it in the first place, which really, I'm shocked that we haven't talked about this on a podlock, but we definitely talked about this not recording, is the entire unlocking of the padlock itself, which is a whole ordeal that I think is probably a good starting point to get into, because let's not do it. Okay. You know what? I'm going to end the broadcast, and thank you guys for talking to. We don't want to talk about Padlock. We don't want to talk about.
We do. We all know I fucked up. Like, it's fine.
Oh, I didn't mean that ordeal. I didn't mean that. I meant
Brett throwing himself make me full screen so I can fucking just drive it.
You're right. You're right though. Let's talk about it was crazy. Malcolm found the padlock all by himself, and we said, "Congratulations, you found it," and that was it. That was all that happened.
Nothing else happened.
Yeah, now that I say it out loud, it wasn't that important at all. But let's talk about Lana's HOH reign as a whole, because Lana wins HOH and she outrightly nominates Andrew R. and Duncan. But by the end of the round, we have Jessica being the back door in our first tie vote. Let's get into it. Brett, you're about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she outright nominated anybody, because she went from person to person telling them that they were in contention. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna be real with you. I might nominate you. Might not nominate you. We will see. And she did that to 4 people. She did that to Jessica and Patrick, in addition to Andrew and Duncan, who she ended up nominating. And so it was as if she did like a BB Can era nomination session shortlist, and it was like topazed to the entire house, where she let everyone know what her shortlist was. It wasn't even she told people she trusted that she was, trying to narrow it down between a couple of people. She went to those people and said, I might nominate your ass. And I'm just letting you know, just so get, honesty and whatever. And so it was, I've never seen anything like it. And what's funny is that I don't even think it was hellaciously bad. I don't think it was great, but because she's Lana and she's endearing and she's just who she is, I think that it could have been way worse. Like, Patrick could never do something like that.
Oh, right. Patrick lifts a finger now to this jury especially, and I feel like they're like, fuck that guy, Yeah. He's the worst.
Yeah, Lana wasn't unscathed necessarily. It didn't work, but it could have been phenomenally catastrophically worse for her, but because it was her, it was only that wasn't that great, but whatever.
Right. It was just kind of like, I guess Lana was a meh HOH when she casually told everyone that she might nominate them. I can think of one person here who's been victim to that, maybe one time or another, and people didn't take well to it. I'm talking to you, Alex. But
sorry, what?
He just told. Yeah. I guess you did the worst thing, which is tell other people other names, and then it spread to a long
I told Gwen, and then Gwen told everyone else. I can't.
Well,
listen, I aligned with crazy. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm not here to just shit on Alex. I
am. We're now introducing a new section of the podcast. It's just shit on Alex. Nick, what you got?
Where should I start, honey?
Exactly. But no, yeah, I didn't think Lana handled it really well from experience. But gosh, I have a lot of issues with how this week ended up because I don't think anyone really played it well.
Yeah, but we're about 3 rounds away from that. But
I still mean this one.
Oh, okay. But it was a wild round indeed. But I feel like it does relate to the round that we just had in terms of directness with Lana. I mean, at least she's true to her word in the terms of she was upfront with people. I mean, if you can bring one positive out of it, it was that, because that's the one thing that Lana preached on her way out the door this week, was that, you know, you should have just told me and not an hour before the vote, because I'm gonna remember it.
But did she? Because she went into the instant eviction with the idea, I'm in my speech for renominating Jessica, naming her as the replacement nominee, I'm going to be like, hey, the person I'm going to nominate, like, I think that they'll be safe. It's fine. My target is still my target, Duncan. And so, like, I don't know about the whole honesty.
Yeah, it's a little hypocritical, because like, and Jessica even messaged that in like her like production chat with us. She's like, it's just funny that Lana's being mad about not being told that she's going home when I went home in an instant, blindsided, in a 4-3 vote. Like, so
she don't know that though.
I think most people know it was a tie. I mean, we've not said it explicitly, but
Jessica guessed it was a tie, and so I mean, good on her. Everyone's guessed pretty much right though when I asked them to guess the vote count. So I mean, their perceptions are on point. But yeah, that besides the padlock, we saw Jessica go home, and really at this point we still had the Yorgers. Is that how you pronounced it?
It's I'm sorry, Francisco and Lana are gonna fucking kill me for fucking up, but it's that like, I don't know if is it Cardi B who does the Nick?
Yeah. I think.
Nick's asleep.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
He's like, we're trying to remember what now? What round was this?
I remember the chat name and the voice notes of them saying how to say it, but I don't remember how to say it.
There were 7 E's and then ogres on wheels. So I think it was like ogres, but then like the Cardi B like I can't do it. I'm really
It was something like that. I don't know.
I'm so sorry, Francisco.
And we need I need for reference. This included everyone but Andrew R, Patrick, Jessica.
No. Andrew R was there. That was Andrew R, Duncan, Lana,
Johnny, and Francisco.
Yes.
So
it was everyone but Jessica, Patrick, Malcolm, and Gigi.
So what was the thought process behind Lana nominating Andrew R and Duncan?
This is leading up to this came about from Onward going home, because Duncan standing up for Onward,
right,
and he kind of fell to the bottom because of that. And then Andrew was kind of accused of being someone that went back and forth with his vote and was saying things that he wasn't actually going to do, if I remember right.
Yeah,
in addition to it,
from jump that he was safe. Like, she was like, you're fine. And then later she was like, but you're also not.
I do remember that. And then Andrew's connection with Lana wasn't great either. Like the Angers was fucking hate that name.
They said
keep talking Badonk.
It was made out of in order to combat the potential reconnection of the Breakfast Club. And so
fast food enthusiasts.
The same thing. And so I feel like Andrew was there, and that group was formed out of more like a necessity as opposed to them actually all connecting well together. So Lana just nominated the both of them. And then of course Andrew beasts that veto. I'm trying to remember which one it actually was. Stop, spin, and solve. He killed that.
Let's talk about the Jessica backdoor. That originated from Johnny's cerebrum.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like? Because I know eventually this is going to be something he regretted the most out of anything, just doing his eviction interview with him. But what was his main thought process behind getting specifically Jessica out? Because she had connections with more people than the other people outside of this Yolgers account?
It was the other way around. I think Johnny could never really probably like get Jessica anywhere. Brett, you probably are explaining this a lot better. Yeah.
I mean, okay, I think the way that we get to Jessica actually being targeted is, well, I mean, for one thing, like, you know, Johnny knows he's a crackhead. Like, Johnny knows that his brain moves at 1,000,000 miles a minute and that he can't sit still and whatever. And he knows this. And I you know, say it to his face, it's fine. Hello, hey Johnny, you're watching this. I think that Johnny kind of wandered into it from the side or backward in some way. Like, I don't think he head-on started Lana's HOA train saying, it's gotta be Jessica or anything like that. But what ended up happening was Johnny put in a lot of legwork to make sure that Patrick was on Lana's shortlist. And Johnny put in a lot of work to make sure that Patrick wasn't an initial nom. And then once Andrew came down, he put in more work to make sure that he wasn't the replacement nominee, which ended up burying Jessica. And then he kind of started thinking in his head, all right, well, moving forward, is Duncan going to be more of an obstacle for me, or is Jessica? And Jessica has been a bit more inscrutable for Johnny. She's never been blatantly against him, but she's also not been the most forthcoming with him in terms of information, in terms of the people that they were mutually working with. They probably factored in each other the least because Jessica and Patrick were always going to prefer each other's company over Johnny's. Thank you. And so I think that Johnny eventually sort of just looked at the nominations that were going to be happening and then be like, you know what? People are still going to want Duncan out next week. Like, when are we going to get another chance to take a shot at Jessica? I don't think we are in the distant future. So let's do this shit now.
That's funny considering where Duncan is right now, but yeah, I have a lot of issues with Johnny targeting Jessica, not just because Jessica, like, getting Jessica out, fine. You know, I can see why Johnny might be like threatened. However, they went about it knowing that they were about to walk into a 3-3 and continued to like lie about it and do all this sort of shit to then leave Malcolm, Patrick, and Andrew, yes, like on their own.
Leaving Malcolm out of something isn't really saying much. I mean,
it's very it's very Charlie Brown-esque with the football, like Malcolm.
Yeah. Good analogy.
Thank you.
That was very good. Proud of you.
Thank you.
But no, it's true. That was such a weird thing to watch because I was watching like Jessica's chats as soon as this all happened in the instant, and she had zero concerns. I've never seen someone more confident going. She didn't talk to really anyone. She was just, as soon as Patrick was like, "Oh, you're good, you're fine. You're like, you have nothing to worry about." And she was kind of like, "Okay, I'll take a step back." And no one else was. I mean, even the people that voted her out, obviously, were just saying, "Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it."
Same for Alex and me, because we were the jackasses in the last roundtable that we did, saying going into that week, "Oh yeah, no, Jessica's still our winner pick." And meanwhile, Justin and Daniel are like besides themselves, spitting out their wine and like doubled over in laughter. And we're like, "What? Jessica's fine. Like she's gonna climb her way back up." And then 5 minutes later, she's gone. Oh, so pissed.
I remember she had this call with Francisco like right after the veto ceremony, and she was like, "So like I'm fine, right?" And he's like, "Yeah," like, and she like hangs up, and Francisco's just like, and he hangs up.
Yeah, it was during like the 10-minute like instant thing because
I was like, she's got no clue.
Yeah, Jessica had no reason to be worried, like at all. Like they did not give her a reason to be nervous, and she was going to everybody, and everyone was saying like, "Yeah, you're fine." And so when it gets called that she's out of here, it was crazy.
And I'd like to also point out that this day in particular, the day that Jessica went, also included a call that will forever be my favorite call of all time. That was between Francisco and Lana. Because I joined the call and they were laughing hysterically for probably about 10 minutes before they could even like bring themselves to speak actual words because they were laughing so hard. And before I'd gotten there, Lana was complaining about her back hurting. And so what she meant to say is that her back was hurting because of her boobs, but what she said was her back was hurting because of her balls. And Francisco, I think he's still laughing about it, honestly. But they couldn't stop. And I screenshotted a moment where they were like fanning themselves off after laughing for a feature length amount of time. So I just wanted to point that out there because I definitely was going to forget later on that happened. But yeah, Jessica.
I also love the stream of calls after Jess gets evicted, with like, I think like Malcolm and Patrick comparing notes, like everyone like starting to. It really was just sort of Johnny's like explosion, implosion, whatever.
Johnny's dirty deed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
Yeah, we saw the implosion of Johnny not 2 days later. But any last thoughts on Jessica before
I want to ask all of you, because Jessica is a player that like is textbook, so skilled, so much promise, and really could have, I mean, and maybe that's the reason why she's gone, but I want to ask you all what missteps you think that might have played a hand in her eviction. I think the only misstep outside of, well, you know, like complacency, I would say would be too much reliance on Patrick versus her other connections, not keeping her trio chat with Andrew and Francisco active, which is, you know, that's a three-way street, but still, if you have a reliance chat, you gotta keep it alive if you have any hope in them doing business with you.
I feel like in terms of everyone, she felt like she had a relative amount of safety with, more so than I think she should have. That's always the vibe that I got. I feel like if she would just been a little bit more pessimistic about like relationships with people, maybe she would have been better off. But instead, she was very much like, I'm sure I'm fine about it. Like, which is a fine way to go about it because you don't want to get paranoid or anything. Mm-hmm. But I feel like she could have used a little bit more paranoia.
Yeah, because the last, like, obviously, like, Lana nominated her, she went home, but Francisco was also looking at a Jessica nomination. And I don't even think Jessica knows that at all. Like, there was no possible way.
You're gonna have to wait until the after party, ma'am.
We have Dustin.
She doesn't have a wristband. She has to go.
Yeah. McDonald's was closed, so I got Taco Bell, but I'm here.
A close second.
That sounds so good. I'll get that.
Executive producer and creator, Dustin.
Hi. It's Allison. Hi.
Just as problematic.
But no, I agree mainly with like the complacency thing that you said, Brett. Like, I think that was her biggest issue.
Dustin, if you were to give your input on the downfall of Jessica, if you could fix one thing about her game, what would it have been?
I think it goes back to her first week HOH, wasting it on a kitty, going against the Women's Alliance, and then doing nothing about it afterwards. I think she is the one who got the most by the Women's Alliance not working together at all. You know, she started the chain of being like, well, the Women's Alliance not real, which then she pushed that first domino, and the ending domino was not Lana nominating her after the whole like women are cool thing. You know, I think her game was kind of flawed from the beginning, you know, and she got stuck with, like, I think Alex said, complacency and allies. I don't think she reached out to people a lot. I don't feel like she was doing it to prove her allegiance to people. I think she would just like want people to like her and was resting on pretty, as some would say. And I think that it works for some casts, but this cast, I feel like, you know, you have to put in some legwork with people, and when there's so much time, you got to show that you still care and you're still a good ally. And she did not do that with Lana.
How crazy is it that we had 4 out of 5 women cast for this season win HOH, and that every single one of them used their HOH to nominate one of the other women?
And every single time they won, they'd be like, oh my God, girl power. And they would all nominate one of them.
and you know what? Say what you will about my girl Amanda. Amanda is the only person who did not use her HOH to actually take out a woman.
She is. However, she still nominated Gigi and was okay.
She still did, but Gigi did not leave. Everyone else, the woman they nominated, left.
The only woman with a clean conscience is Kitty at the end of the day.
I can't speak to this because we evicted one of the 3 women in Padlock season 1 in the instant, and then the next HOH I nominated the 2 remaining women. So I don't feel like I have enough. I'm sorry. I know, it's true.
Oh my god, I forgot you nominated Kendall and Gwen.
Listen, I knew what I was doing when it happened, okay?
Gwen told him to nominate Mark. And he
No, she told Barrett to nominate me.
I don't remember. I know for sure she told me Mark. Maybe she said Mark and you. I don't remember. It was a lot. It was a blur. It was all a blur.
That week was. Anyways,
He was like,
yeah.
Man, put up Barrett. Put up yourself.
We ended this week with a new juror, the first juror, the Rotor juror,
The queen juror.
and with Malcolm in possession of the padlock, the secret passageway, which will come into play at the fast forward that we had only 2 days later, which was jam-packed with excitement. We see Malcolm pull out the HOH win after what seemed like an hour-long questioning session, it was Malcolm and Duncan are the final two?
Yeah, I believe they were the last two.
And they could not stop answering the same questions. Yeah. But Malcolm comes out victorious. We're like, okay, is he actually gonna use this power right now? Like, is this really how this is gonna work out in the midst of a fast forward? Francisco pulls out the POV after Malcolm already nominated Duncan and Gigi, which was a sus choice, but we understand where he was coming from. Before this, I guess we should preface, was the forming of what came to be known as Game On Motherfuckers, I should say.
Yes.
Between Andrew R., Pat, and Malcolm, the three people essentially left out of this blind side that occurred, which has been successful so far, I would say, up to this point.
We'll see what happens next, but yes.
Yes, so far, I said. Maybe not as of tomorrow or anything, but as of now. So this really came into play. So can someone walk through me the formation of this and the preceding plans going into the fast forward?
I'll be honest, I don't entirely remember how it went, but it was a lot of one-on-one calls for what happened, where Patrick and Andrew were pissed that Jessica left and they were not let in on what happened. Malcolm was also pissed, so it seemed kind of just like we're all mad, we were all left out. So it's kind of like the need of an alliance. We were left out of this. There's probably a group without us. We need to stick together, which there was, the anti-fast food enthusiasts, they were a group. And so I think it was a thing of necessity. I don't think the three are the best of buds per se. I mean, fully. Right. But I think it was a thing of necessity. And they got lucky. And, that was the path where it started. And, that's kind of been, going forward. But I think going into the fast forward, having that group be made, that call kind of really changed a lot going forward into the fast forward.
And seemingly it came out with a death wish for Johnny, which is the most important thing about it.
Yes. And so with Patrick and Malcolm now becoming part of this weirdly formative trio, you have Malcolm, who's been sad Eeyore on so many of these evictions, just seldom voting with the majority. The other person being the one who leaves every time he votes for the most part. And then Patrick, for the first time, is left out of a vote with Jessica departing. And Patrick feels the Eeyore sadness that Malcolm had and goes, oh, this fucking blows. And Malcolm's had this 9 times and we've only evicted 6 people. That's crazy. And so Malcolm and Patrick then kind of have a meeting of the minds about the whole thing. Andrew also was left out. He's involved. Malcolm comes clean about his secret passageway power and says, let's find a way. We're evicting someone in this fast forward. We don't know if one of us is going to win HOH, if one of them is going to win HOH, but we need to fully understand the dictates of this power, its abilities, its restrictions, all the different scenarios so that we can use this to make sure, 1, that all 3 of us are still here, and 2, to make sure that someone who needs to be the fuck out of here is out of here. And so Malcolm wins. They go through all the scenarios. The thing happens. Malcolm wins HOH. And then from there, one of the scenarios that they had cooked up was the idea of the secret passageway. It's not just about giving safety to 2 people, but it's taking a vote out of play. And so Malcolm knew, okay, cool. So I'm going to nominate Gigi and I'm going to nominate Duncan. And the votes to keep Johnny, if Johnny is on the block at the end of the night, are Lana, Francisco, and Duncan. And so he says, if I am going to pull this off, I got to use my power. I got to take one of those 3 votes out of play so that Andrew and Patrick force a tie, and then I join them to make a new majority in order to send Johnny's ass packing.
I think my main question coming out of that, because watching it all unfold, I think the main thing that you want to jump to, and it's what a lot of us did jump to, was why is Malcolm having the power already, using the power that he could use until top 7?
On his own HOH, no less.
On his own HOH. So I think that's the big thing that you have to look at. So the big question is, would Duncan have voted out Johnny in that situation?
I don't.
No. Duncan was so grateful to have had his ass saved by Johnny's help in getting Jessica on the block and being a pivotal force of being like, Lana, I know Duncan pissed you off, but like, this is our chance to get out of Jessica. Let's force a tie with Francisco. Gigi will do whatever we say. Let's do this. Gigi had no utility for Duncan's game whatsoever, but Johnny had at that point proven at least once and very, very recently. And Duncan's a creature of gratitude. He was definitely going to vote. When the 10 minutes was happening, he was like, "Yo, no one waste their time on me, but like we're keeping Johnny, right?"
And I think it was. Then I think looking back on it in retrospect, it was like, it's a fine move. It's a good move, and it really shook up the game as well. But at the same time, Daniel's looking at me like I just said the worst.
I think in the moment though, I think in our heads though, we all said, well, what if next week you're in trouble? I think that's what we all.
And then he's going to be desperately needing it, but he wasn't in trouble. But if he was, we probably would be sitting here saying something.
The problem was showiness. The problem was it was
after the fact. He's like, it was me. I did all of it.
I think if it would look better too if he wasn't the HOH, because it's like, you know, nobody the fucking had a house.
Right.
Like you did all that. Like, I don't know.
It was showy.
Daniel, you're raising your hand.
Yes. Hi. No, my problem with it was like he did all that to go like get out people who trusted him, like to work with people who he didn't know like 100% trusted him or not. And obviously we see everything, so we know we knew that like Patrick and Andrew were going to go after Malcolm at some point in the future, whereas Malcolm just didn't anticipate that right away. And I just found the move very like, I got the person who has the most power. I did it. It was me. I did it. But then it's him. I think has the most power.
I mean, to be fair, he did just steal the power from him. He didn't decide at the fast forward. I think he was scared that Johnny was being mad at him. And he's like, well, I can only deal with him for 2 days or 9 days.
But like that doesn't matter if he has the power. Like what's Johnny going to do? Try to backdoor him? He still has the power. He's going to be safe.
Well, they had already built up a level of distrust against each other, like even before any of that secret.
Yeah, what I was going to say is like, I don't think Malcolm made a bad decision in getting out Johnny with what you were saying about getting someone out that you can trust, because at this point Malcolm did not trust Johnny. He had already been saying stuff to like Jessica and Patrick about how Johnny's like the biggest threat, about how like Johnny is not necessarily the person that says this is who we're getting out, but like it has to go through Johnny first before it's really like a plan. And I think Malcolm being left out of so many votes and then being included in plans like last minute from Johnny really made Malcolm feel as though Johnny was not close with Malcolm at all, which it ultimately led to him stealing the padlock and getting him out.
Yeah, which is
sorry.
He was kept out of the Jessica vote. Like Johnny intentionally kept Malcolm out of the Jessica vote, and was that a mistake?
I think Johnny keeping anyone out of the Jessica vote was a mistake. If there's a majority already there and you know nothing's going to happen with it, sure, it's a little bit of like a strong arm, but like at least they're in the know and they're not like deer in the headlights, like, oh, they didn't want to include me in this, we're about to go into like a final 8 against this, like this isn't good.
Yeah, I mean it is an instant eviction, so you always have like, oh, I'll tell them that in those like 2 days leading up to the eviction I have time. You always think you have time. and they didn't. And so that was kind of, I think then, that eviction specifically being an instant is what invigorated Patrick, Andrew, and Malcolm working together because they were not told. But also, that should have been on Johnny within that 10 minutes to let people know, hey, we have the votes, this is what's happening, instead of just reconfirming what's been going on. I think he should have used that 10 minutes wiser, and I think Johnny may have stayed in the fast forward, but he didn't use those 10 minutes wisely.
Look who it is.
Welcome to Pork Chop Loading.
Who is she?
People keep coming in.
So who did you face off against?
Yeah, who was your lip sync against, Cody?
Oh, in terms of
It was against AJ. AJ's in the losing dock right now. Me and Daniel killed Mark. But I did want, because
I just got that. I didn't understand what anything y'all were saying.
I just feel like Johnny's game, that 3-day period was just a mistake after mistake after mistake for Johnny. And, I think really, yes, I'm shocked that the plan worked and they got Johnny out, but I think, it's not like, oh, this was all Malcolm's plan and Malcolm did this. Johnny did it to himself. It's just Malcolm, was the one that kind of kicked him out because Johnny's game was terrible for those 3 days.
But with that being said, though, it is because of Malcolm, because if it wasn't for Malcolm using the power, Johnny would have stayed.
But Malcolm put so much distrust into Malcolm, where Malcolm felt so pissed.
Say that again. Malcolm put so much distrust into Malcolm.
You know what I meant.
Johnny
Malcolm,
trust each other.
Thank you.
Right, but that's still only 3 people in the game who don't trust Johnny. The majority of the game trusted Johnny.
I mean, you pissed off the person with the power.
But Johnny didn't anticipate Malcolm. Right.
You pissed someone off and then you posted the code in the chat. You're the person you just pissed off. They're going to steal it. Malcolm stole it.
Okay, girl.
That's what I'm just saying, though. It's okay. Johnny played the 3 days terribly.
Right. But I also think Malcolm did make a mistake in the way that he got out Johnny.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's 2 alpha males butting heads being like, I'm going to make big moves.
Yeah, I just think Malcolm didn't anticipate the future, in my opinion.
Same could be said for Johnny, though, when it came to the Jessica vote.
Right, exactly. That's why Johnny's out.
Derek, big moves, Malcolm.
Right. I'm not saying Johnny played a good game. I don't think he did.
I think he played a great game. I just think he needs a Coco Chanel where he has all these ideas and he just needs to lose one every now and then. So
I mean, but if Johnny didn't know Lana before the game, do they have that connection? That's not necessarily playing good within the parameters of the Padlock dude like Chateau or whatever.
You know
what I mean? That's just what I'm saying. I think Johnny overplayed, but I think that Malcolm to just go to this extreme measure to this is gonna save the game. I'm gonna do this, you guys. But then it's just
save the game for Patrick.
Yeah, you saved Patrick.
It opened the game up for everybody else except for Malcolm.
Yeah.
My thing too is Johnny didn't win anything, so I don't understand. If Johnny was this huge threat or whatever, people could have just threw him right up. He didn't win jack shit.
It was the influence that was the issues that I would say all but maybe one vote could be attributed to Johnny being well, this is what I think should happen, and I have my feelers in this person, and I have my feelers in that person, and then he had the fucking telephone tree that just accessed the entire house, and it all stemmed from him.
But Johnny also tried the hardest. Johnny put in the most work to get.
I think Anwar put in the most work, but you could work hard as fuck in the wrong direction.
But still, Johnny did the most successful work. He made those connections. It wasn't just out of thin air.
Oh no, I mean I think to have control over Gigi is a prize. That takes a lot of work.
He had Gigi second Padlock. He got that extra vote.
Right. So I don't know. I think Johnny getting out then was the right thing. I think that it makes sense for everyone else. I think Malcolm being the one to do it at that time was a mistake.
I think the way he did it was a mistake. Like, just throw his ass up. Save the power.
Right, like
I
you
was
could
like,
just backdoor him.
But
right.
if he threw him up, the votes were not there. There was Francisco, Lana, and Duncan, who were going to be 3 out of 5 votes, who were not going to evict Johnny. So just nominating him alone was not going to do enough.
Right, so take out PG or Lana, and then be like, oh yeah, sorry, one of them had to go.
Limiting his resources to make him weaker for a later round in which
I
see what you mean. I think Malcolm probably could have played it in a sense of there were 4 people or 4 people at the time. I don't remember that did me wrong. Why don't I just throw up 2 of them, and if one of them comes off, throw up a 3rd one, and then I still have my power, and we're Gucci. We're good.
And everyone hates Johnny still.
That could have been that would have been a good play.
And also, if things go wrong and Johnny wins power the next week, okay, you still have the path.
Have your secret path
Like,
you're fine.
I do. Were we not robbed of a Johnny HOH train? Like,
absolutely
what
were robbed.
would have been like.
He would have just done like Duncan and.
Well, I mean, also I do want to say this on Malcolm. Is he nominated Duncan?
Not in terms of game decisions, but I mean in terms of like his like bravado and shit.
Yeah.
I do want to say this also. I think Malcolm played his HOH poorly also by nominating Duncan, because Duncan did not wrong him. Duncan was just like on the bottom, odd one out, had no key at all in him staying. You know, like
he felt like weirdly maligned against like Malcolm's like judge of characters has not been true north. It's been some kind of northwest. But he had so much energy spent maligning Duncan because of the Anwar situation and the role that Duncan had played in the very, very thin attempt to save Anwar.
How dare he want to save him?
To get back on the Johnny vote, Johnny deserved to go when he did. I think that he overplayed it and he did really, really bad at the end of it. Do I think it was the right time for him to go, though? For who was in power? No.
For Malcolm, no.
Right.
For other people in the house, yes. And I think Patrick and Andrew played into that. I think Patrick and Andrew kind of fueled Malcolm, like, yeah, let's use it. Let's use this power. Let's make a move.
And it's so good for them too, because I feel like the last time we did a roundtable, we were saying Patrick Hott is actually in a not like powerful position, which is rare to see in a Patrick Hott game. And it's like Malcolm came along and they're like, he can be the scapegoat for us and take all the blame for everything, and he'll just let us skate by a little bit longer, which is I hate that that's how it fell into.
Like,
because
Patrick did nothing. Like, Patrick did really nothing to get Johnny out. Malcolm went to Patrick and was like, Johnny's running this. We gotta get out Johnny. And Patrick's just like, okay, cool.
Who can flesh the power and get out Johnny? Let's do it,
Malcolm. We got this. Like, Patrick had exuded like no social like energy. It was just Malcolm looking for someone to do a move with him. It just so happened to be Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Malcolm has been wronged for so long. He just wanted to like make someone happy. Like, I'm an ally. I'm a good ally. I'm a good foot soldier.
And he's a great one. He's like
a great foot soldier, but he chose the dark side. Like, Darth Vader and Emperor right there. Like, you know, you're a bad person. You're doing the wrong thing.
Malcolm's thought process is always like very linear when it comes to like who he's working with, and he's cause driven. Like he wants to work towards that common goal. Like he's very gung ho for it, and he kind of doesn't see like the forest for the trees when it comes for what's going to be Andrew's best interest long term, what's going to be Patrick's best interest long term. Neither of which include him, but he didn't realize that at the time because he's like, no, it's common goal. We're the fucking A team. I want to ask Barrett though, because talking about Patrick's role or lack thereof in Johnny's eviction reminds me of Johnny's exit interview, and that Johnny had a certain type of reaction to a lot of his goodbye messages, and he felt strangely admonished by Patrick. Do you remember that at all, Barrett?
He was just tired of Patrick playing the martyr of a situation and not just, taking the role for what it was, which was taking part in his eviction. He just got annoyed with that, which seems to be a theme when it comes to Patrick's goodbye messages. But that was the main thing. And I think he was more so disgusted with Patrick's than anyone else because of that.
This is your fault.
Yeah.
I voted you out, but this is your fault.
Yeah.
Patrick goodbye messages have a current theme of being bad and impersonal. And I feel like he's definitely been struggling.
That's
in that.
Patrick's entire game.
His effort with goodbye messages is probably, most accentuated with just putting the frowny face in the title of the YouTube video. That's all. That's the most effort he gives when it comes to a goodbye message for anyone. Everything else is just sorry. It's not my fault though. It's yours. You were the one voted out, obviously, so it's your fault.
You know that meme? You know that meme that's like, I'm not reading this, so I'm sorry that happened, or congratulations. Like, that's literally Patrick.
Yes.
He's in this game. I don't care what you said. I hope it gets better for you. Or, yay, good for you.
I mean, I'm going to say something controversial yet brave, as I always tend to do. But, like,
Go ahead.
Patrick did lose 4 allies in a row. He was on the bottom for some point.
I don't count Amanda as his ally, and
I know, but like I like to think like say I remove Patrick Hawkins.
He lost Jordan. That's all he lost. He literally just lost Jordan.
I know. I'm trying to think like, is he in his head truly think he's an underdog, and these people have all wronged him at one point, so they kind of deserved what happened to him.
If it were up to Patrick, all of his he had the main alliance in the game. It just so happened the other side kept winning power. Like, if it were up to Patrick, they would have dominated the game, steamrolled them. So I don't feel bad for him. He did nothing to ever get out of his tower that he was in. He's just been perpetually at the bottom, and the other side started eating each other up.
I mean, he did do a really nice attempt when he figured that him and Jordan were going to end up on the block at some point, and made that effort. But past that, I mean, aside from making sure he was above Jordan in a pecking order, he after that he's been there the rest of the time.
It's been everyone outplaying and outsmarting each other, and then it's like, oh yeah, Patrick is here.
Yeah. Also, Jordan being Patrick's opponent was super one-sided, because in Jordan's mind, it's the end of Titanic, and then they're trying to occupy the little piece of the plank of wood, and then he's like, I'll never let go, and blah blah. In Patrick's head, Patrick's been on that live boat, and he's he's at the bottom of the ocean. It's fine. Ain't nothing wrong in my ain't no shame in my game. Jordan's gone.
Yes.
Have we talked enough about Jessica and Johnny, you think? Should we move on to the long week that was Gigi's eviction? If we can.
Yeah, let's keep going.
I think that's a good. I think it's a good point to move on. I mean, I think we always tend to go back when we still when we're talking about
Right.
it with the players still remaining at the end.
So speaking of Patrick, he's won the next HOH.
Which Francisco throws to him very blatantly.
Right. And I don't listen. In a week that Gigi goes, I don't know where to start the conversation. But we were fresh off an eviction where Johnny said, you have to get Gigi out of the game right now, or else she's going to be that person that gets to the end. She's going to be the what we call the Kindle of the situation here, where you're always going to survive next to Kindle. Is that going to be how it goes?
And the irony, because Johnny and many other players had no empathy for Anwar's plight when it was the same situation. In that case, Anwar was a lot, was caught red-handed a lot more than Johnny was. But I appreciate Johnny's passion. I had no empathy when it came to him being like, well, Gigi doesn't deserve to be here. And it's like, oh, she's had 2 times on the block already. And everyone was like, nah, it's fine. Keep her around because she's no threat. There's no need. She's never active, whatever. We'll just keep using her. And then all of a sudden, just the irony of him being on the block against her was just
That was what I was going to lead with. Just the irony of her being Johnny's pawn, and then her outlasting him in the end, and him being mad about it. It's like, you can't have it one way or the other.
It's crazy to me that the stat line that will forever live in Padlock history is that Gigi will have won more competitions than Johnny. Johnny was sitting there, and I mean, good on her.
Then Jordan, then Kitty, then Andrew S.
What was everyone's main reasoning for being like, okay, this is Gigi's time. This is the time that Gigi goes. We can't let her get any further.
Lana was the opponent.
I mean, that's a good reason as any.
I honestly think it's a mix of things. I think everyone was kind of in agreement that Gigi wanted to go, Gigi needed to go. It's very much in the fast four. People if we can't get out Landon, we'll get out Kendall. If we couldn't get out Johnny, we'll get out Gigi. Gigi was everyone already kind of agreed that Gigi needs to go soon. She's taking up a spot. It just so happened there was a move to be made.
Duncan,
And
otherwise he was out as fuck.
Oh yeah, that too.
So now we're at the point now where we already have the house has agreed on Gigi needs to go. Patrick, is kind of in a good spot now. He has an alliance that did something. He is feeling comfortable. He doesn't need to shake things up. He has a good relationship with Francisco, an okay relationship with Duncan per se-ish. I think it's, he just doesn't want to stir things up. Let's just stir up Gigi, Lana, make it Look, guys, I'm doing what the house wants. Don't nominate me.
Right.
Patrick has very superficial connections with everybody. He's the best at small talk, and he doesn't want to mess up any of those superficial relationships.
Would Duncan have gone home if he had stayed on the block? Is that like an easy yes?
I would say so.
Absolutely.
I think there's always a bigger target next to Gigi. I think Gigi will stay, but because she was up against Lana. It's like we wouldn't do that to Lana. No, that's when Gigi can go because they're
we'll wait like a week to do it to Lana. Yeah.
I think they're like well, they're similar in physical comps. So and we like Lana, but Lana is also not the most active person alive. So they're very not. I don't want to say similar because it's a disservice to Lana, but I think it's Gigi was not up against a comp beast. So if Gigi's up against a comp beast, the comp beast got to go.
Yeah, Andrew and Malcolm both did not feel good about Duncan's past transgressions. Francisco felt better about Duncan than he did about Gigi, but Patrick willingly voted out Anwar, and when Francisco put his foot down, was all pouty and inflexible about it. And Francisco straight up told Patrick, look, I would rather Gigi leave over Duncan, but you did me a solid by getting rid of Anwar when it made more sense for you to get rid of Gigi, and so I am going to repay the favor. So I think Duncan was asked out if he was going to be on the block against her at the end of the week.
I'm going to be doing Gigi's eviction interview tomorrow. That's weird to say after she's been out of the game since a long time ago, but
11 days, 12 days, something like that.
Yeah.
A month.
So she finally gets to see her goodbye messages, which aren't really of substance either. But what are some questions I need to ask Gigi, or something that you're just curious about when it comes to Gigi and her time in Padlock season 2?
I can't say anything.
Everyone wants to ask about her HOH week and what was going through her head, how malleable she was, if she wishes in retrospect she had done something different, whether it was the next week or a month later. I think everyone's questions are centering around, you had power. No one expected you had power, but you had power. Do you like what you did with it? Yeah. Would you have done something different?
Yeah, I think asking about any regrets, who, stuff like that, I think would probably be good.
What was your favorite org you played while you played Padlock?
You played a good amount of them, but I think Gigi's always been remembered for her HOH week. She did kickstart the org, even if she was pushed to kick the button. She was the one that eventually kickstarted everything and blew everything up. But I think, I hate to say, Gigi was on borrowed time for a long time, and it just finally was okay, now it's time for Gigi to go. We're nearing the end game, and I don't think anyone seriously wanted to have to rely on Gigi in the end game, especially with Johnny not there. Gigi was, she lost her paddle, she lost her boat, she was just floating, just going with the wind at that point.
The girl gets a say, a 1 out of 7 say in who wins the game. And so I hope the final 2, if they end up in a 4-3, the way that Barrett and I end up in a 4-3, I hope that if Gigi does cast the deciding vote, that there are no regrets amongst whoever is the final 2 of allowing her to be on jury over Anwar.
I haven't gotten a sense of Gigi in the jury house yet. Who is she pissed at? Is she pissed at anyone? Is she pissed at any of the guys that are running the
Patrick. I think there's no way, I think in any circumstance she'll vote for Patrick. Especially with Lana coming in saying as well that she despises Patrick. I think Gigi likes Malcolm. I think.
She doesn't like most people, she's not keen on Andrew just because they had no connection whatsoever. She's not keen on Francisco because they came to words and we learned Gigi's life story from that. And then she's not Malcolm's nominated her, but she's nominated Malcolm, so she feels like they're kind of even Steven, so she's kind of like net neutral on him. And then who's the last one? The last one is Duncan. I think she's fine. She's fine on Duncan. I think she would probably want Duncan to win the whole thing. Not a bad pick, but yeah, I think Gigi has every right to be net negative on most of these people. Just top down.
That makes it complicated because it's weird not knowing at least one person who could be at the end and would receive Gigi's vote without even like having to second guess it.
And she's not like in the jury house chat. You have Johnny and you have Lana and you have Jessica, who have all at various points have submitted ranking lists, and Gigi has not bothered to join in. Because Gigi can't name all 5 people still in the game, but like, but of everyone else is being very declarative of like, okay, so here's how I'm feeling right now. Here's who I think is getting nominated next, even though they're wrong completely, and stuff like that. But it's nice to see the progression of their thoughts of like, oh, I'm valuing this person's game, I'm not valuing this person's game, or I'm friends with this person, but they're fucking up or whatever. It's interesting.
It's gonna be, who is he nominating? I haven't.
Malcolm and Duncan.
Malcolm.
I mean, that's where we're at the point now where one of Malcolm or Duncan is leaving this week. It doesn't matter who. It's one of them is leaving, and we're going to the final 4.
Whoever doesn't beat up. And
the majority of the jury is there now. So technically, you don't need everyone that's left. You can get people that have been out of the house now for almost a month, and Lana and Gigi. You know, players that people really didn't value. So, like, that's why I'm finding it interesting. Like, Patrick did a confessional today, and he was like, well, I don't have Lana, I don't have Gigi. If Johnny respects game, he'll vote for me, but I don't know if he respects game. But Jessica likes me. And it's like, well, you're saying 3 people, so you don't need the other 4.
Right.
So, you know, I think people don't realize how small this jury is, that, like, every vote kind of matters in some sense of the word. Like,
and I feel like when it comes to the jury right now, everyone is so anti-Patrick except for Jessica. She's the only one that's saying, Patrick's okay. Because he's the only one who hasn't like screwed her over. But like, Brett?
I was going to say, Phil, I just wanted to ask a philosophical question to everybody who wants to weigh in. Do you think that the show Big Brother for US and for Canada, do you think that the prevalence of juries of 9 have sort of desensitized people to realize just how important individual jurors are? Because 7 in comparison to 9 is a world of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Of who because you can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think you're right.
I think
Wait,
so too.
I missed. That's fine.
What do you think about the difference between 7 and 9, Alex? If you had to,
in terms of, do you think the prevalence of the TV series Big Brother having larger juries as of late in the past couple of years has sort of desensitized some people from keeping it in their mind that, oh shit, every vote is important, especially 7 on this jury?
Yeah, I think it is, because I think once you start getting into like 9, where people are on the jury for a lot longer with people who have been out for a lot longer and they start talking, I think you get more of a mob mentality. Whereas with 7, there's not enough time to necessarily get over it all, and everyone like has a lot of different opinions on what happens. I think that's why we ended up with the 4-3 last season, because we all like had our own individual ideas on what both of you guys did. So
right. And I think it also depends on like the point in the game as well, that you start with 7 jurors as opposed to 9 jurors. And like Alex said, I think it omits that point where you had to think like, okay, if there's a jury of 9, then surely there's going to be like a group of 3 that's all going to vote together because they all worked with this one person. Whereas you have a group of 7 where it's very much more individualized, where you're thinking, okay, this person liked me for this reason, they didn't like me for that reason. You have to think about it more, which makes it way more interesting. So that's a good point to bring up, because I don't know if everyone's thinking about those things in the depth that they should at this point. I think Patrick is way more confident in himself in the way that he can speak to a jury specifically, even just listening to his confessional today, but in his other diary rooms as well. I think he thinks he thinks he can argue against anyone in the final 2, where I don't think that's necessarily the case, because they're, especially the people right now that are in jury, seem to be bitter against him for the most part, and it's going to be difficult.
I get it with like Lana and like because he didn't tell her Jack, and Gigi because I think Patrick was a little more like, hey, I kind of want to work with you. I'm sending you out the door, but I want to work with you. And but I don't know. I mean, Johnny. I feel like Johnny did it to himself, but I mean,
I think Johnny will get over it with Pat.
I do think Johnny will get
I don't
over
think
it.
he really
I
directly.
think Johnny will respect Game. I think it's been up there. I have a question for Nick, because Nick, you are the confessional person that I like to go to. Has anyone else been talking about what jury votes they feel like they have, or jury management, or anything notable and like that?
Not really. I do know that Gigi, because I know we were talking about this earlier, but Gigi did say she wants Duncan to win in one of her confessionals. But no, I don't think so. I haven't watched the ones from like the recent round, so I'm a little behind.
I don't even know, but not a lot of people are more talking about who's still in the game than who's not in the game, unless it's like then I fucked them over and oof. But Francisco knows he has Lana. Francisco knows he has Lana, and that he knows by virtue of Lana's influence that depending on who, if Francisco's not up against Duncan, essentially, there's a huge chance that Lana can curry favor to get a second vote, essentially, for Francisco, especially if he's up against the likes of Andrew or Patrick. Then, like, who the fuck else is still in the game? Duncan, he's not really talking too much about jury votes. He had kind of like, wayward relationships with all four of them. But I think that's okay because he hadn't really made too many promises to those four, but he didn't fuck things over with those four in particularly. So he's kind of in this weird neutral zone.
Yeah, and I think like Duncan's also kind of been focusing a lot on just like, I feel like Duncan's been in constant survival mode for like the last few weeks. And so, I mean, I don't know, I think it's hard to make like super genuine connections when you're just trying to say what you need to get out of the situation that you're in, at least for me, maybe. But I think regardless, I think Duncan's sort of underdog coming from behind. If he ends up making it to the end, I think he wins, and I would be very happy with that. So, but I don't think he's getting there. I think we're getting a very boring.
The thing is, we still have a group of 3 people remaining that is going to be loyal to each other for the most part and going to be willing to carry each other to the final 3. I've never seen that before. I can't imagine. Yeah. But you have Francisco and Andrew and Patrick, who, if you look at all their DRs, and I haven't watched all of them, but from what I can gather, they're all willing to take each other if they have to, because they're so terrified of Malcolm and Duncan being the jury's favorite if they do get to the end, which is not a bad
fair. Yeah, I think Malcolm and Duncan both, like, I don't think Malcolm necessarily beats in a landslide because of his like own social connections, but I think Duncan does do a pretty good job against any of them. So it makes sense that they want to get rid of the 2 biggest jury threats. But also, I mean, and I do think Francisco, Andrew, and Patrick, they haven't played bad games necessarily. But I don't know who would necessarily win because all of their relationships are very wonky with everyone else's.
I really don't know.
Which actually, honestly, probably adds more to them being able to take each other to the final 3 and be comfortable with it, because they're like, hey, it's kind of up in the air. Like, these last few things are really going to dictate it. Like, if I take out Malcolm, hey, that might boost me up. Or if I'm confident in my speaking skills, like Patrick thinks he would be against Francisco and Andrew R, he thinks that might tip like the edge over towards him, which I think is I think it's justified thinking in that. I don't think there's any like stand out between the 3 of Francisco, Andrew, and Patrick. So
I did want to go back for a second to Lana, because I think it was a boring week. I will say it was a long week. There was Christmas,
we had OTEV.
There was New Year's. It was OTEV. It was a fun week for competitions. Strategy-wise, nothing really happened till the last, like, I would say 3 hours. And I think those 3 hours gives a really good idea of where people are with jury management and their social skills and their in-game plans. Because we saw Andrew and Patrick have a call together, and that call went to a Malcolm call where they pretty much just told Malcolm, here's what we're doing in a nice way. And then we saw from that point a whole bunch of calls go from there. And, you know, I sat in when Andrew and Patrick told Malcolm. And it was bad. It was really bad. They're bad
The
at
way they handled it
They
was
were
just
good at
bad.
hiding it.
There's
They
that
just,
screenshot of Malcolm's face.
Malcolm immediately knew going into that, they're like, this is not good.
We are maybe considering this totally not premeditated decision that we have made amongst the two of us without you. This is organic. What is happening right now is organic trust. This is, you know, we all trust each other. We're a trio. We all act in each other's best interest. And so isn't it so great that we can all be open and honest with each other right now at this exact moment? We're getting rid of Lana.
Literally was like, Patrick, I think Lana should go. And Andrew's like, yeah, I agree. I think Lana should go. And I just came to the
That's
decision.
crazy, too.
Just so robotic and rehearsed and just so bad.
That's because Andrew R is robotic and Patrick can't fathom emotions. So not like those two trying to fabricate a story is not gonna go well.
No,
no big
neither of
time
them could tell
for
me
them.
anything.
Like, no Emmy at all. Like, Malcolm, the first 30 seconds knew, and then that 30-second base was like a 45-minute call where Malcolm literally said, I don't have a vote, nothing matters, I'm like, glad you're telling me, but like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Like, and they just kept on going. They didn't end the call. Like, when they just end the call.
It was painful.
But it's a good thing Lana took it well, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
It kind
Lana
of-
took it amazing, like fantastic. Nothing.
She said, it's okay, guys. I understand. I'm glad you told me so soon, though.
What do you think about the order of the PEMDAS of it all, the order of operations of telling the HOH first, their alleged ally Malcolm, then telling Duncan, then telling Lana last? What do you think of the order?
Didn't Malcolm go straight to Lana?
Lana.
Yeah, he did.
Malcolm told Lana first, but Lana heard it from Malcolm before hearing it.
Oh yeah, because
From
Lana's the
Malcolm.
one. She just like ran into their chats, calling them like.
Yeah, she
cowards.
called him out pretty much because, and Andrew Patrick called this. They said, like, because they went on a call afterwards, and Andrew specifically said, Malcolm is calling people right now, and they continued their call one-on-one together to kind of like debrief the call with Malcolm. And they're like, let's call Duncan because Duncan might win HOH in 20 minutes, so we probably need to talk to Duncan.
And it's like, girl, you gotta like, as you're telling Malcolm, you gotta have the breakup text already typed, and then as your call is ending with Malcolm, you hit send to make sure that you beat him to the punch to be the one to tell her.
And Rue even made it worse when he was on the call with Duncan saying, oh my god, Lana just messaged me this essay out of the blue saying I'm a coward and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, my mind's not made up to a bit Lana right now. And it was like, what are you doing?
It's like what Tyler thought me and Brett were actually doing to him in the last season when we really weren't, because we were trying to decide if we wanted to get rid of him or Nick. But Tyler thought that we were just like bullshitting him and be like, we have no idea what we're doing.
No, this is not the deal.
But it's what they were actually doing is what I'm saying. And yeah, horrible look. That was bad.
I think the thing is they knew this. They knew this for like 3-4 days, and they held on to it literally like 2-3 hours before eviction, hoping that would minimize it. And I think it honestly made things way worse. You pissed off 3 people in the game, which, remember, you only need 4 votes to win. So if you lose those 3...
I'm just surprised we haven't learned from pattern, because like we've had these a couple, you know, like within the 9 o'clock hour of people being like, okay, so here's what's actually going to happen, but I want to let you know because I'm honest. I'm honest with you and whatever. It's not what you want at all, but I'm honest with you because I'm telling you before the vote. So therefore, it's legal. This is you know, we're fine. And I feel like that they would have learned about the poor reaction that's done, especially with someone like Malcolm, who's been on the receiving end of that so many times this season, to be like, let's change it up and let's immediately air out our grievances post veto. Once the veto is not used, let's immediately have this conversation and be like, you know what? I think we really actually, there's more at stake here than I think you think there is. And I think that we really need to evaluate our options here.
I want to piggyback off that with like Patrick's HOH. Do you think like he's working hard to lose Malcolm's vote? Because apparently he's anticipating like it's going to be the 1-2 punch, you know. First he fucks him over with that and just tells him all that last second, and then he says he's going to nominate him and probably not tell him straight up before he does it. It's like,
Yeah, because
This is Malcolm we're talking about. Like,
what's really crappy though is just something that I saw in the chat with Andrew and Patrick, is that Patrick in the Game On motherfuckers chat said it should be a chill week, so I'll be around like usual after tonight. And Andrew was like, "Hey, do you think Malcolm may have taken that as a hey, we're all good for this week? It's gonna be a chill week. We don't have to do anything." He's like, I meant that was my family. Do you think Malcolm took it that way? And I'm like, Malcolm definitely took it away. That's how I took it.
We just told him yesterday after you evicted Lana that we're still final 3. Don't worry, we're changing the order of operations of who's going next. You know, instead of Francisco going and then Lana going, we're gonna do Lana first. Don't worry, Francisco and Duncan are going up. That's pretty much what he said. Like, I just don't understand their logic.
So I have a question for everyone. Remember how we were all discussing, I forgot where it was, but about who we think the villain of the season is? Do you think it's Patrick?
I mean, that made
I don't know. Or Rue?
I think we're going into an end game where it's possible they just don't care and like how they handled Lana and they do it against Malcolm this week. I think it's possible that
they think they're Helltown.
It's Patrick's lack of empathy for me.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're seeing Patrick shifting to a villainous route, but also I think it's him just not caring at all. And I think he's like, oh, I'll be in the finals with probably Andrew and we're doing it together. Where I think we're shaping it now, where Francisco's in the final 2, he's going to win.
He has like the me attitude in Endure where I was kind of just like, I just want to be in the finals and then I'll worry about like getting jury votes when I have a speech. And it's like, we saw how that works out for me.
I think it's something
they are Helltown.
Yeah.
Something Mark mentioned in text of like how, and I think this might be something that Patrick's potentially banking on, is literally just the fact that he's Patrick Hot a little bit, and he's like, oh, I came in, I was like the biggest name out here, you know, and I still made it to the end, and I'm like, that's cool, buddy, but was your game great? No.
I think
so, like,
yes, but I think that honestly, he thinks he's the underdog. You know, I lost 4 allies in a row. How many times has he said this? That I lost 4 allies in a row, I had no control, now I have control. That's gonna be his speech, that he had no control and then he gained it. And so he thinks, well, I'm the underdog, so I'm the hero. I'm doing well. You know, I came from nothing to something. Where it's like,
but there are people in the game who can refute that. They can say, Patrick, you didn't gain control. We gave you control by proxy through us. Like, realistically, if Patrick is on a jury and is in the final 2 and he's like, I got control, you're gonna have people like Malcolm being like, no, I'm the one who initiated all of this, and you backstab me for no loyalty at all.
Yep.
You showed me no gratitude towards that. You chose Francisco over me. And I think Francisco is going to win the final HOH. So,
if it's physical, which
and I think, and then at that point, it's like, who would Malcolm rather vote for? Francisco, who he like didn't do anything like Francisco didn't really do anything to Malcolm, really.
I mean, no,
Malcolm's wanted him out because Malcolm
and so it's like that respect of like, oh, I wanted you out and you got out of it.
Yeah, it's just I think Patrick is just super fucking lazy and falls back on what he always does, and he always gets rewarded for it. But this time, this cast isn't like any other cast he's played with before. I wonder why.
I mean, I think if Jordan, I think you have someone that's fighting for you, and Jessica's not like a big fighter for Patrick. She's like, I like Pat, but she's not like.
She's like privately
he's not defending his ass with them at all. She didn't even pretend to care about fighting for him.
She said in her DR today too, didn't she, that she like feels bad that everyone's shitting on Pat, but she like doesn't want to say anything.
She's saying all of it privately. She doesn't
third on her list. He is third.
So that's what Pat needs someone in the jury who's going to be like very vocal for him, because I think if it's like a Pat Rue final 2, maybe he has a shot.
Yeah,
but
not having Jordan in jury.
Right, like he needed Jordan in jury, and like he needed that like that person who's just constantly going to be like Team Pat. He has Jess isn't doing that. So,
but like everyone on the jury understands that Patrick has had no agency in this game, and the people who are going to be going onto the jury that aren't Patrick know this as well. Like, it's no secret. The only person who thinks that that Patrick has had power is Patrick. Like, He's the only one who thinks naturally that he's gotten this, and everyone else in the game knows that he's just a non-entity that has gotten lucky.
Damn.
He also has the best public speaker out of the remaining players.
Yeah, because I think his confessional today, it was 15 minutes, and me, Bear, and Nick were there. And that 15 minutes, I think, summed up his in-game plans. Well, that he's like, well, I'm probably gonna lose part 1 to Francisco, but I'll win part 2. I'm studying. I got part 2, and then part 3 is luck, but you know. And then he's like, well, then I don't have Lana, I don't have Gigi, but like Johnny Respect Game just collects me, you know. It's like
that's the thing. He's so he had like the mindset that I had in there, where he's so concerned about just getting to the finals. Where that's why I was like, "What's your biggest hurdle in the end game?" And he said, "Winning the comps." And it's like, no, bitch, the fucking jury.
Okay, but like that still doesn't make sense, because if his biggest hurdle is winning the comps, why is he evicting Gigi and Lana?
Right.
I mean. Like, again, it just Patrick is so unimpressive, and it's like their logic makes no sense ever, and I don't know why they're making the decisions that they're making, other than they're bad, lazy players. Him and Andrew.
Speaking of that, no logic, Andrew saying, I want Lana out because she's a voting threat. What does that mean?
Anyone's gonna nominate her with their HOH. The
it's
fuck
final.
does that mean?
He's
Still gonna veto over everybody else at that point? Like what?
I could not listen to him reasoning with Duncan and with other people that she's Gigi 2.0. I couldn't hear that one more time of him saying that's what that. And I was like, ooh, this is not the business.
I think he's worse than Pat. I think Pat's played way better.
Well, so it's funny because like socially, they both have social crimes against them for completely different reasons. Where Andrew doesn't invest in people socially, and so on one hand he doesn't burn people on a social level, but on the other hand he has no capital built up. Whereas Patrick, he is, he wants to know the first car you drove and your birthstone and your blood type and your Myers-Briggs assessment and who you talked to on your block this week. But he seems so full of shit when he immediately backstabs them, and so they all think it's completely not genuine. And so it's like, okay, so what do you, which is the worst crime here? And it's gonna, if they are the final two, it's gonna be interesting to see how people evaluate that.
Andrew wins because of a bitter jury. Like Andrew, I think that's how he's gonna win, because it's not like, well, like, he's so like okay, like he's like he played good, he got there. Where Patrick, you have more passion against.
His strategy has been on point though. Is like his strategic maneuvering, especially like with week 3, and with the way that he's spoken to people to get himself out of hot water in some major points in which he really could have been fucked. I give him a little more credit. He's just like social is not his business.
I don't even think there is going to be necessarily a bitter jury regardless of who's in the final two, because I think if Duncan or Francisco if Duncan or Malcolm are in the final two, they're going to win, right? And so then it's like, okay, Francisco probably has the third highest chances of winning if he's against Andrew or Patrick. So realistically, the only time we're going to have a vote that's, oh, we just like this person more than the other is an Andrew versus Patrick. Right? Unless it's like Francisco, Malcolm, and Duncan versus Patrick and Andrew in the final two. But I don't think that's going to happen unless it's literally Francisco, right? Unless Malcolm wins out.
So unless Malcolm or Duncan.
But then he wins.
Okay, Malcolm or Duncan have to win out for the final 3 to not be Francisco, Andrew, and Pat. They aren't going to get their own social prowess anymore.
Yeah, but just one comp for
final 4 HOH.
Either,
well, it's nearly guaranteed that one of Malcolm or Duncan is going to go in this round, right?
It is guaranteed. One of them is
going. Whichever one survives has to win one of final 4 comps, which is the biggest problem with that plan of we just have to beat them, because they have 2 chances. They didn't win HOH. Patrick can't compete in HOH, so it's 1 in 3 shot for them in the first one, and then a 1 in 4. Like those are pretty okay odds.
Yeah, it's like, and that's where Patrick being like, "Oh, I'm worried about comps," really should have taken into account, because I mean, the Badonkadonks over here, we took a certain person to 4 because we didn't think that we could do really well in comps against them, and so but then Patrick's worried about comps, but he's taking Francisco over Lana.
That's what Daniel mentioned, is like, why focus all your energy on getting out known comp threats, Gigi and Lana, than when you have the opportunity to take out players like Francisco, to take out someone else. Wait, who was on? No, it was Duncan, Gigi, and Lana. But he could have nominated someone else other than Lana as the replacement nominee and screw them over at that point.
Because they were never working with them.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
As if that shit even matters. Because the whole thing is, though, like, that shit doesn't matter if Patrick is just voting people out anyways. Malcolm basically threw his entire game to Patrick and said, look, this is my allegiance to you. I'm using this power, and I'm going to win this power, and I'm winning HOHs to take out your enemies. And you know what Patrick says? Thank you. You're getting fifth.
Yeah.
Like, that don't mean shit. So that, again, it still doesn't make sense why Patrick and Andrew are taking out Gigi and Lana. There's literally no logical reason behind it.
So I will say that Francisco, Andrew, and Patrick, they have had the Heathers Battalion for a while. So it's not like
one.
Yeah, so it's not like this is a completely.
They weren't loyal to it. It's just they're coming back to it. It's the chat that's been there.
Yeah, I suppose.
There was several alliance chats at the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah, it's waxed and waned in terms of its prevalence and importance. It's never been. I mean, it's shifted back and forth between being a number one consideration and not being a number one consideration. It's been very temperamental and circumstantial. It's never been the end all be all, the badonks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you.
Thank you.
It's this. I mean, we're at the point now where all 4 Black House guests are going to go out in a row most likely, unless something happens. They have to win a comp, which I think is
problematic.
I think,
and for illogical reasoning that doesn't line up with the train of thought that they've been sharing.
I agree.
I do think it's important to say, because we are saying their logic does not make sense.
It's because they're not used to playing with people who look like them, and so they don't understand them and don't relate to them like that. So it's just easier for them to affect them.
But I think it's all I wouldn't say. I think that's the I think there's always implicit bias but all that. But I think it's traditional org roles where it's there's the 2 hags, as org always likes to call them. They're not. Everyone likes them. They're not good at comps, so we can get rid of the jury threats. And then Malcolm and Duncan, they had the Xenerdog story and all that, so they gotta go. And so that leaves Francisco, Andrew, and Patrick. I think it's just important to say, because it is something that is happening, and that is currently was Patrick's boot list, which we said back a while ago. The boot list was going to be those 4 in a row with these 3 happening. It's most likely going to come to fruition unless, most likely, Duncan, because I think they're sending home Malcolm for 5th. Duncan has to win one of HOH or POV next week.
Okay, hold up. Why are they even sending home Malcolm over Duncan?
I think it could change, but they're sending home Malcolm as of for now.
When the win threat, the idea of Malcolm's story and his accomplishments.
But Duncan has the same thing. They've been after Duncan for weeks.
It's the padlock.
I think it's that, and Malcolm's won the most comps now.
He has won the most comps. So I think it's the padlock with that, which also the padlock that he used to help them is why he has to go home.
Right, and even with the comp shit, it's different from last season. We got a 4 to 3 to 3 to 3 to 1 or something like that. The comp wins are not that prevalent here because they've all won relatively similar. With
Patrick's won the same amount of comps as Malcolm now.
Oh yeah, Patrick just won HOH. So 4 to 4, and then Francisco and Duncan are both sitting at 3. And then who's the last bitch?
Andrew has won one, but he's thrown all of them.
Andrew's won.
None of this makes sense to me. Does it make sense to y'all? Let's.
I think it does, only because I will say that Duncan and Malcolm are the biggest threats to win. We said that earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense for them to take it out for that reason. However, I don't think
agree
they're
with
using
that.
reasoning.
So here's what I think. I agree with that, Alex. I think that if I was in the game, I would want Duncan and Malcolm out because I think that they're gonna fucking win. I think
even if I think that, I don't do anything about it. So
I mean, we know you kept Brett, but I think that them evicting Lana,
that's
because why are you gonna evict the person that's not gonna win?
Wait, isn't Patrick's whole big thing? We've been saying this all day. Patrick just wants to get there. I just want to get there, guys. I'll worry about winning later. But evict people who he can for sure be in competition.
And
his logic is just wrong. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
That's why Malcolm was so pissed, because he said, I did this for us because we get to Final Four together. We just have to beat Lana.
Yeah.
It's doable. You know,
yeah.
But you know, she's won before, and you know, like, you never know when they're gonna put another crapshoot.
Crapshoot at Final 5 and 4. You know,
she's the queen of voting. She's invented voting. She's gonna vote you right out.
We're doing the pinball at Final Four veto. Enjoy, kids.
Can I ask a really honestly serious question though? Like, we've pointed out the discrepancies in the logic. Like, truly, from y'all, what is the real reason behind these decisions then? Like, what is the real reason? Like, from y'all's honest opinion, and like, not just me trying to be like edgy. Like, seriously, like, why are Patrick and Andrew making these moves when they have gone, like, they're outwardly saying the logic, but the logic doesn't make sense with their decisions?
I am from what I understood from all the calls that I've been on, it's they want Malcolm and Francisco going after each other at Final 5. And they have not really thought about what happens after that, which I think is the flaw in the logic that we've all pointed out, is they haven't thought about, well, one of them still has to be here. I think they just wanted more chances to get out Malcolm, as well as the fear that Lana might take a spot for them. I mean, this is a good move for Andrew, bad move for Patrick, as I've been saying.
Yeah, I think
Andrew is something to me like Andrew just gets carried along one more round, where Lana is taking that spot for Andrew. So it made sense for Andrew.
Yeah, I think the reasoning makes a lot more sense for Andrew. I think when I haven't done my like rankings yet, but I think I'm putting Andrew at number 1 because I don't think anyone's going after him. I think he's a finalist at this point, aside from like a winning out. But I think it does come down mainly to Andrew and Patrick being this final 2, and them trying to figure out, okay, well, I'm not like Andrew wasn't that close with Malcolm. Patrick was getting there, but they had developed some sort of rapport with Francisco, so I think that's why they went with him. I don't quite get the Lana thing, except for the fact that Andrew wasn't really close to Lana. So I think it's about Andrew setting himself up to make sure he's in the finals.
Yeah, Francisco and Andrew, I'm pretty sure.
And giving that sort of flawed logic.
But that, I mean, I see what you're saying. I do think that it sparks like an origin question of, yeah, Andrew is not that close with Lana. We know that to be true, but what led to that? Because, you know, he's had 50 some motherfucking, like, nearly 60 days. He's had nearly 2 months to talk to whoever he wants to talk to out of this entire cast. And I do think that he has found it easier to talk to Patrick and to talk to Francisco than he's found it to talk to 80% of the rest of the cast.
And also, wasn't Andrew the one who convinced Gigi not to nominate him?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like his crowning achievement move. Like, that is crowd.
And then evicted her over Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew week 1, his final 2 was with Francisco. I think Andrew has the connections with Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Like, compared to anyone else, I think he's the closest connection to Francisco. I think they haven't touched base in a while, so I don't know how true that spark is still there or not. But I think, like I said, this is a good move for Andrew, bad move for Patrick.
I mean, is it a good move or just like not bad move?
I think it's a good move.
Not
I think Andrew gets to the end.
I think no matter
what to show for it though. They're right now literally losing to Francis. It has to be Andrew versus Patrick for one of them to win.
I think literally, I don't think Patrick wins any of these combinations. I think Andrew would win over Patrick. But Andrew has to make sure he's with Patrick.
Yeah, I think Andrew has to be against Patrick. I think Patrick can beat Andrew.
I think still beats the shit out of him.
I think there's a chance that Andrew can still beat Francisco. I think there's a chance about that. I think it depends on the certain juror. I think it's going to be a split vote, close vote. And I think Malcolm and Duncan win 5-2 to most people.
Yeah.
But if Francisco and Andrew are in the final 2, that means that Francisco won the final
HOH and evicted Patrick,
and evicted Patrick, which would be Francisco's winning move.
Which I think at that point, like I know we've been saying Francisco is vanilla, but at this point, I mean he is, but I think him winning means Patrick losing, and it's not any help of his own and no agency of his own. I mean, he set up some connections, but it's Patrick's fault if Francisco wins now. It is fully Patrick's fault.
It's Malcolm and Johnny's fault for letting these vanilla people who have had no agency fall face forward into the end because they outbeat each other.
I mean, Padlock is a game though where you have to make big moves, but you can't do them because you do them. And there's a month left of the game. You know, there's time for you to get got, and they're getting got.
I fully blame Johnny and Malcolm for if that outcome happens. But I mean, I don't. I find it more likely that Malcolm or Duncan went out versus Andrew and Patrick getting to the end together. I really do.
Statistically, it makes more sense for Duncan to win out than statistically for both Andrew and Patrick to get there, because a lot has to go right for Andrew and Patrick to get there.
I just want to mention, is Patrick the only one taking notes?
As far as I know, yes.
I'm curious about the 2. No one else has been particularly vocal about it, and I'm surprised for how, as many of us, and granted, we all had varying degrees of how detailed our notes were for season 1, with Landon being the most insane, nuanced notes I've ever seen in my life. Because I thought my notes were good, but apparently they weren't as good. Alex had better notes than I did, I'm sure. Barrett had notes of his own, and so and I know Tyler had something going on. Yeah, and so but Patrick's the only one who's mentioned it. But I'm curious for people who are familiar with Big Brother, and even whether you watch Big Brother Canada or Big Brother US, days come up, events come up, sequences come up of what happened before the other thing, or how this works, and things that have happened over the course of the season. And I do talk it up to if Patrick ends up winning out at 4 because he's the only person with notes, then fucking power to him, because everyone else was lazy as shit if he's the only person who has any sort of note-taking going on.
Yep, and I honestly think he is the only one taking notes, which I have seen his notes. They are pretty well in depth. Not as good as season 1 notes. I will say season 1 notes had everything written down, but he does have comp names. He has veto players, who won what, things like that. Everyone else, I don't know if they're taking notes, and I don't think they are, because I'm not usually as a production team, we get asked, what was the comp name again? Can you say it again?
Right.
We aren't getting any of that. No one's when you get comp name and a veto, no one's stopping to write it down before the competition.
And people I remember a lot of our talks in the beginning was us talking about notes, being did you get the comp name? What was it? Because I would go around and ask people if I didn't get it. And I haven't heard that at all. No. In any conversation.
He said lip locked. I'm just saying he said lip locked.
Right, that was such a big thing. And we haven't had anything like that. So
yeah, I know what I did. I essentially just made a doc and I shared it with Barrett and Brett on day 10, and then I went with that.
That was very nice of you, yeah.
Oh, I
had a Word doc.
I took out your guys' permissions when Tyler told me you guys were evicting Keaton, and then I gave it back a couple days later.
But my notes didn't really extend too far beyond pre-jury. I would just have conversations with people and be okay, they know this person, they know that person, and they specifically said this. I could use this, I don't know, 40 days or so. And a couple of things were useful, but other than that, I was just as soon as Alex gave us the comp names, I was I don't have to think about this anymore. And then,
well, I think even this cast, they don't refer to the comps as comp names. They refer to them as what it was.
The first luck comp, the second luck comp, the third luck comp.
The comp that Lana won, they never refer to it as the comp name, and I think that's really they're in a big storm coming, because Padlock is a game where it requires notes.
Right. Keep that in mind.
Listen, if I play again, I am keeping track how many true false questions are in a damn comp.
Oh, I was so frustrated until I figured it out.
Damn.
But the part 4 is hard. I think part 4 is a comp where you can get by without notes. Part 2 is
I was there was a part 4?
No, but That's the thing is we're saying the scenarios we're saying that Francisco's going to win part one, and then it's going to be Patrick and Andrew. Patrick's going to destroy Andrew. Then it comes down to jury statements. So so many things can happen. But I do think though Patrick has some right to be cocky if he thinks he's the only one taking notes.
Right. By the way, tomorrow is day 60, I believe. So not only congratulations to the house guests, but everyone on Prod has just been so incredible and persevered through all of our trials and tribulations, and we got a good team of 9 here.
Yeah. And I also want to let you guys know that City is not a music genre, and I will fucking stand by that for the rest of my life.
Nick City is a music genre.
Nick City is a music genre. City being such.
I know he's playing it. He's playing it.
Playlist I found. I'm enjoying City Pop.
Oh yeah, I saw your Insta story today.
Yeah, I had so much fun with Nick setting up OTEV. That was and Barrett making all the songs and shit. Like that was great, and I think they really liked it too.
Great.
But holy hell, fine. I'll make sure to not use fucking City next time. Like Jesus.
Hey, we just have an ongoing joke for next season to throw in somewhere.
I thought it was a gag at my fucking name.
Oh, and no, it was literally just because I had Jessica Country, Jessica County, and then Jessica City. And then Kitty City. It rhymed. I was like, okay.
Okay. I don't know. People think too much of
All right.
We need to winner picks.
I was about to say, are we ready to transition to the final thing, runner picks?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, this is hard.
I'll start though, because mine is going to be the same as last time. The last time we did this, I switched mine officially from Duncan to Rue because I thought that Duncan was about to go out. Here he is still, but I'm going to stick with Andrew for this one. Unfortunately, I still rather would see Duncan or Malcolm win. I think we all probably would, but I'm going to stick with Andrew as the most likely option. Who wants to go next?
I will. I really want Malcolm to win, but oh man, Patrick's kicking him in the ass, taking that football away yet again. And so I'm going to go with Rue. I think I know I said I only think he beats Patrick, but I also think he beats Francisco. And so I think Andrew Rue.
I want Duncan because I'm my king, but I don't think he'll do it. I don't know. We'll see. But who I think will win is Francisco. And I said it last time, and I'm going to say it again. So
I think Jessica's going to win.
She won our hearts.
It hurts.
I think. Oh gosh. You know what? I did the Brett Steele last night, and I think Francisco is gonna win that last HOH, and then I think he's gonna 4-3 it.
I think I'm with everyone else. I want Malcolm or Duncan to win. I think they're like the player of the season, whichever one makes it. However, I've said it for like the past 6 weeks now. I'm gonna stick with it. I think Andrew Rue is gonna be the person who skates by and is just gonna clear house. So I'm sticking with Andrew.
Yeah, I said this before. I'm sticking with my winner pick. It's gonna be Francisco by virtue of he is okay compared to Andrew and Patrick, who are hated. And that he just got there and they're like, oh, he's there. Fun.
Well, my original winner pick was Patrick, and I was very wrong with that one. I'm going to switch my winner pick to Andrew just by virtue of connections that he could probably argue that he had a clear-cut path to the end since, this Final Five situation with evicting Lana, ensuring that he has
that argument doesn't win with everyone, though. Just know that.
I would argue on Andrew's side. I know we're trying to end this, but he hasn't been a target since week 7. Because Patrick and then Malcolm and then Patrick and then he's fine. Anyways, yeah.
Those people aren't
right now. This is 2 weeks ago.
Those people aren't going to care about. Do you really think Gigi and Lana are going to factor that into their decision making about who they're going to vote for at the end?
Against Patrick, they will.
Well, yeah.
I will say this: Andrew needs to come with a good statement. He's not known for his eloquence. and he's going to have to be very thoughtful about how he prepares himself because the other four are much more eloquent than he is.
Yeah, I have seen him in a finals speech before, and it was pretty good. So like, I'm not like, he's not like the way he talks on calls. He gets better when he's under pressure.
Okay, cool. Because he has the credentials, but he's got some people who know how to give a speech.
I will say though, if he prepares for this like any other normal org final two, he's gonna lose. This jury is not filled with normal org people. They're gonna vote on who they like more. They don't give a shit about like Johnny cares about the best game, but I don't think Gigi nor Lana do, and I don't think really Jessica cares that much about it. Like they care more about who they feel good about voting for. That's the whole point.
I mean, on a game that is 72 days, I think it's a game about connections and who you form bonds with. This is a game where you have to factor in social like 70%
Well, if
of
that's
it.
the case, why is Andrew winning? Because y'all keep saying he doesn't talk to anybody.
Because I know that's going to be Rue versus Patrick. So I have to think worst case scenario. I think worst case scenario is going to be Patrick and Rue, and I would like Rue to win in that. So that's where my head is.
I really think that it's gonna be split no matter what, because how you're saying like it's like 70% social, that's true, but like at the end of the day, I had way stronger of a social bond with Barrett, and I still voted for Brett because I thought Brett played.
Thank you.
But also
So
again,
it's
last
just-
season's jury was filled with people who all play these types of games all the time.
Yeah.
I think
You're
John
right.
is a game bot per se.
Yeah, everyone else is
Yeah.
gonna vote based on I'm really glad I'm voting for this person. Like I feel good about voting for
Which
this
is why
person.
at the end of the day, I have called Francisco Vanilla, and everyone likes Vanilla, and so that's why Francisco is going to win, unfortunately.
Yes, that's what I
I want Rue to win. I think Rue's going to win, but if Francisco can win his way there, which he is going to have to, I think Francisco can win.
I think he can too, because I don't think they're even gonna. He's not even gonna be like an option to go until like final 3.
Unless Duncan gets out this round and Malcolm wins Final Four veto and just decides to evict Francisco over Patrick and
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Which I think if he does that, he could lose the game.
He definitely could, and it's something now that you said it, I'm like, I can totally fucking see that happening, and it would be so frustrating.
I know, and I really think that is a possibility because I was thinking about talking about that earlier. I think that Malcolm wins Final Four veto, evicts Francisco, thinking that he can just auto beat Patrick and Andrew at the end, and that just tips the scales in Patrick and Andrew's favor because Francisco is furious at Malcolm for just handing the game over, and now you have Lana, Gigi, and Francisco pissed off, and then Duncan's a fourth. Doesn't matter what Johnny thinks. But let's not hope for that.
Duncan, please
Duncan.
But Malcolm has to win veto.
Malcolm has to win veto this week.
Duncan has to win veto this week.
I think more than anything, I would just rather see Malcolm at the end so he can give a speech that starts with a trope that he has used in almost every single goodbye message this season so far, in which he starts out the goodbye message by saying, "All right, insert name here. If you're seeing this, that means you have been evicted from Padlock season 2." And it is the most weird filler I've ever heard in my life for a goodbye message. So I want him in the final 2 just so he can say, "Everyone, if you're seeing this, that means that I have made it to the finale of Padlock season 2." And it would be full circle and I would die a happy man. But I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm wet. Oh, so good. You deserve.
Also, shout out to Alex and Barrett for creating the best music of all time I've ever seen. Ever.
The best knockoff music of all time.
Period.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
All right.
So bring us home, Barrett.
All right. Thank you, everyone in the future, for watching this roundtable of 4 rounds of Padlock. Hopefully next time we do this, it won't be 4 rounds, but who knows?
The game would be done by then, I think.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, with that, if you're watching this in the future and you're a house guest, I can't believe that happened this week. That was crazy. And like my mind is blown already. Like
that fight though.
She said that. Wait, never mind. There's no she's anymore in the house. Y'all got rid of all of them. Way to go. All right. I'm going to end this on a dark note. Goodbye, everyone.
Speak colloquially, as in the gays.